almost 50% of the companies in this country still pay their primary suppliers using checks in 2021, which is amazing but true because I see it all the time. So a lot of them have had to adopt and move to more cloud-based systems to do, to accomplish their businesses, and it's had an enormous effect.
The following is brought to you by Thryv, the end-to-end client experience platform that helps you get the job, manage the job, and get credit.
Welcome to Winning on Main Street. I'm Gordon Henry. The American economy is driven by small business, local business people who want to work for themselves and build something successful. And today we're fortunate to be speaking with Gene Marks. Gene's the CEO of the Marks Group. He's a longtime consultant to small businesses and a purveyor of small business CRM software as well. And Gene will be speaking at our upcoming Thryv Connect virtual conference on November 10th and 11th. And you can sign up to attend the Thryv Connect conference at thryv.com/connect. That's thryv.com/connect. Welcome, Gene.
Gordon, thanks for having me on. I especially wear my glasses today because it makes me look smarter. So I'm hoping whatever
automatic IQ boost.
Yeah. Whatever
Fantastic.
baloney I spew in your direction, hopefully will elevate it a little bit. So it must be right because he's wearing glasses.
So Gene, you we're thrilled to have you on, and you were on the show. I don't have the exact date, but it was at the beginning of COVID, and I remember we were talking about kind of what was starting to happen, and you had a keen insight. So we're eager to hear your sort of updated views on things. So my first question to you actually is just more of a personal one. I know you're in downtown Philly.
Yeah.
Philly, like most cities, have gone through sort of a gut-wrenching time over the past 6 months. What with COVID, and also hit by some of the protests and stuff that have gone on, and it's been a challenging time, I think, for people in Philadelphia and for the city. What's it feel like being in downtown Philly today?
Philly looks great. I mean, Gordon, it is like it's maybe it's because of the demographics of the city itself. And in Philadelphia, there's sort of two stories. There's parts of Philadelphia where the crime has really been increasing, and some of that is related to the police issues and all of that. And so there's all of that. I live in downtown Philly. It's right near Rittenhouse Square. In the downtown area, Philadelphia is a very young city. It's a very residential city because people living all over the place. And for starters, when I go and I walk around in the city, everybody's wearing masks. They just are. The restaurants are all busy. I mean, the city has given them the room to expand into the streets. So, okay, it's taking up a little bit of parking spaces, but that's fine. And they're bringing heaters out and they're whatever. I hope they keep this up forever, permanently, because it's made the whole city into like this outdoor dining sort of al fresco kind of thing. And they've been booming. I mean, they are. Barclay Prime is near me. It's a steakhouse, right? That's right. Yeah. It's a couple blocks from me. I mean, I think they charge like $8,000 for a steak or something like that. Last time I checked, there's people eating at Barclay Prime. There's no tables to be found there. I don't know who's paying for their steaks, but people are out eating. So
that's good to hear.
I know some of the retail stores are the traffic has got to be less. And I know that in the businessy districts where the high rises are, a lot of the small businesses there are struggling. In fact, one deli that I went to all the time called the Coventry Deli on Market Street just announced they were closing down because they have no customers. People are not coming to work. So again, there's, it's mixed. Not as horrific as one might say. People they're muddling through this.
So speaking more nationally, you're an expert on these things. Have any statistics come out yet on small business closures or, quantifying the pain that has been felt by small business across the country?
Such a great question because I'm going to write about this shortly. I mean, I write every week for The Guardian. I write for the Washington Times. I write for The Hill. I write for the Philadelphia Inquirer. I write for Forbes, and I write for Entrepreneur. So I do that in the mornings, and then I run my business. So I write on small business. And one of the things I'm going to be digging into in the next couple of days is about the whole story about small business closures. And there's a lot behind the numbers that I think people need to know before they start pushing the panic button, right? So when you hear about retailers and restaurants, fitness centers, people in the travel industry, they are hurting. There is no doubt. In fact, most B2C small businesses are hurting. But this is a big country with 30 million small businesses, Gordon, you know? So a lot of my clients, like we have about 600 clients in my firm. They're, you know, family-owned businesses. They sell, you know, distribution parts. They manufacture paper and film. They, you know, provide certain services to businesses. They've been working through all of this. I mean, people have been working from home, but they've continued to work. So a lot of companies that are out there have not suffered to the same level that, you know, you might read about in the news. What the news likes to report is bad news.
Bad news.
It's not all bad news. Now, just last week, there was some news about small business, you know, bankruptcies. And one report said that, you know, you know, 100,000 small businesses could be out of business, you know, because of COVID. And Yelp just said that like 163,000 of their small businesses are no longer listed on Yelp anymore.
Yeah.
Now, if you asked Yelp, because I did ask Yelp, well, how does that compare to like the businesses that didn't list at this time last year? They're like, oh, we don't have those numbers. But you can never, you know, you can never take just one number in a vacuum. You know, you always have to say, like, is that good or that's bad? And I think what I have to tell, what I keep telling people is that the Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. Census Bureau, the Small Business Administration, Gordon, they say that between 7 to 9% U.S. small businesses go out of business every year.
Right.
Now, there are about 6 million employer small businesses. There are 30 million small businesses in the country total. There's about 6 million that employ people. So even if you just take the 6 million at 7 to 9%, it's about 500,000 businesses a year go out of business every year. So when you hear that like, oh, 100,000 businesses went out, you know, out of business because of COVID, I don't want to downplay it because yes, there certainly are the businesses that suffered. But then I also have to take a step back and say, yeah, but I don't know, how many businesses normally go bankrupt in this period?
Right. That's a really good question.
Yeah. And how many businesses were kind of either teetering on the edge or it was a great economy before COVID. So, you know, they were still doing okay despite their bad management. And now COVID sort of made them, brought out all the honest, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, Gene, that's a great point because one of the things I've heard people say, and I really think this is true, is that COVID has been sort of an accelerator. That if you were sort of going out of business but just teetering on, it pushed you out. But it's also changed people's behaviors in a way. We got many people to do things they weren't doing before, and some of that has been a positive thing. For example, the use of Zoom that we're doing now, many people weren't comfortable with it. Now everybody's an expert. So there's certain things that have happened that have been maybe in a somewhat positive direction. And along those lines, I'm wondering, have you seen in your vantage point, has it opened up opportunities for any businesses you've come across that maybe they're doing things better or more virtually or
So, when there's economic downturns like this, just like there were back in 2008, and 2009, as bad as it is for some businesses, it does create some great opportunities for businesses that have been run well over the years and have got some cash in the bank or at least some cash availability. So let's talk about some of those opportunities. One you just mentioned was the whole Zoom thing, which ties into the whole work from home thing. And and Gordon, I know you're the same way because you talk about small business all the time. So you get it that this stuff has been around for a while, right? I mean, I've been telling my clients for years that they should have more of their employees working from home, and they've always resisted it because I don't know, they don't trust the cloud or I don't know. Now they had to do it because the government made them do it. And suddenly I've got all these clients saying to me like, hey, Gene, why didn't you tell me this 5 years ago?
I did. You weren't listening.
Yeah, you weren't listening. Yeah, and you know who really are the winners from the ones who really knew? It's the whole millennial generation. Like all these years, you guys like people in my 50s like me were complaining, all those millennials, they don't know what they don't work for. They just want to be at home. They want they've been demanding all of this flexibility for years. And then the business owners, in this country, so many of them have been resisting. And now I know so many, people that are millennial age are like saying like, see, I told you, you should have been doing this before. So it's a great opportunity for businesses because now they've embraced it and they realize that this stuff works, which means that when things get back to normal, and they will get back to normal, and we start recruiting people again, we've got to be offering work from home options to people. It works It's not just as as a benefit, saying like we believe in, 3 days in the office and 2 days at home or
Right.
whatever. That will help attract more employees. So
Yeah.
all of that stuff is a big deal.
I wanted to ask you, Gene, we both kind of work with technology a lot. Our company, sells the Thryv software. You work with a lot of CRM software. Have you seen the pandemic drive or accelerate the adoption of new technology by small businesses who are sort of finally learning, I need a database, I need to offer virtual appointments, I need to do business via email and text, I need to accept electronic payments, I need to get reviews. Has that happened?
Yeah, 100%. In a few, in a few different ways. I mean, at the most rudimentary level, there are still many companies that their accounting systems are like QuickBooks on their desktop.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly they have to flee their offices and they realize that, well, we need to have something in the cloud to make payments and to receive money and all that. That's the only way to do it. So there's been this huge migration there, because what are you going to do? Go in the office and collect checks and then input them, right? And
Right.
like 50% of the companies, almost 50% of the companies in this country still pay their primary suppliers using checks in 2021, which is amazing but true, because I see it all the time. So that's had to change, as well. So a lot of them have had to adopt and move to more cloud-based systems to do, to accomplish their businesses, and it's had an enormous effect. I'll tell you the other big effect is e-commerce. I mean, online sales have increased 28% this year over year. That's overall, which means that a lot of businesses have had to pivot from just selling in their store, but to selling online. And a lot of people were holding back on doing that. And then they realized they had no other choice, and they've been capitalizing because of it. So e-commerce has been a big thing, Gordon. And don't forget Amazon, for example. They have over 1 million small businesses that sell on their platform.
Right.
So eBay, Etsy, that's also had a dramatic impact. It's opportunities.
Yeah. Let's shift for a minute. You were really involved, probably still are, with the government programs that help small businesses during the pandemic. So let's just start with one everybody remembers, which was the PPP. Has it run out, and is there gonna be a replacement?
So you cannot apply for a Paycheck Protection Program loan anymore. That closed down on August the 8th. So right now the big focus is on forgiveness, because a lot of people who got loans at the beginning of the period, now their loans are coming due unless you want to apply for forgiveness. So you've got, a lot of people are now starting to focus on that. I'm going to get to a new stimulus in a second. Be aware, if there is no extension of the PPP, and right now there is none, and if there is no, no change to what it is, you've got to apply for forgiveness. You've got to go back to your lender, your bank. You've got to fill out the forgiveness application. There's an easy application if you're just an independent business owner, or file is Schedule C, but you've got to get that loan forgiven, and hopefully that you will. Be careful, guys, if you're getting your loan forgiven, because there's a big tax potential issue that you need to be aware of. If your business this year has been okay, and a lot of businesses this year have been okay. They got paycheck protection loans, but they've been all right. And you've been paying in your taxes the same based on last year. Well, whatever expenses you're putting in for forgiveness are not going to be deductible. They're not allowed to be deducted, which means that those expenses you can't deduct them. So your income is going to be higher this year. And if you've been paying in taxes based on last year's income, and if everything else has been pretty much the same, you're going to have a bigger tax bill this year. So Congress might change that, but right now you got to be talking to your accountants right now. And if you didn't follow my logic before, which I understand, just ask your accountant about, the deductibility of my Paycheck Protection Program forgiveness. How does that affect my business? And your accountant can explain that to you. So that's one. Okay.
Right,
You asked about, will there be a new round of Paycheck Protection Program? So I thought there was going to be like 2 weeks ago. Now things have been kind of pushed back. The whole thing with the passing of Justice Ginsburg as well. Washington is just going to be, I predict, over the next couple of weeks, consumed by the whole confirmation process and all of that kind of stuff. So that's going to take a lot of attention away. And meanwhile, small businesses, retailers, restaurateurs, many are struggling and they need more stimulus. And the Federal Reserve, you have the Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, many leaders in Congress agree that there should be another round of paycheck protection. I believe that there will be, and I believe that we will see another round before Election Day.
Oh,
and
really?
Yeah, I do. And I do. And, listen, I mean, you take that and $1 to the bank and you can deposit $1 in the bank. But I do think when you see that new round of paycheck protection, it's been part of the stimulus bills that were voted down, but not because of this. Congress is arguing other issues right now. Everybody's in agreement that small businesses need help, and there's you don't want to lose the small business vote in an election.
Right.
So here's what you can look for in another round. Okay, and I do think that it will happen. In the current provisions, if you have a loan of less than $150,000, automatically forgiven. You sign a piece of paper, you represent that you incurred forgivable expenses. Nobody's going to really touch you. You're automatically forgiven. If you have a loan for less than $2 million, you just have to fill out the paperwork, but you don't have to submit any documentation. So it's pretty close to being automatically forgiven. That's really great. You will be able to apply for more money if you can prove that your business revenues are 50% lower so far this year than last year. So it'll be way more targeted towards those businesses that are really still affected by COVID. Not just anybody can apply. And then they've expanded the definition of forgivable expenses. So if you subscribe to services like Thryv, for example, or other technologies, those are applicable as a forgivable expense.
Sure.
All those things would be part of a new round of paycheck protection program. And I'm going to take the classes, have full view, and say that I think it's going to happen before Election Day.
Wow, that's great to hear your optimism about that, because I actually had not heard anybody say that yet. I thought you were going to say after election, so that's exciting. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back with more from Gene Marks.
Success is a function of resilience over failure. You will get fired. People you love will die. You will have injustice everywhere in the corporate world. Your ability to dust up after you've been beamed in the face, get up and try again is the key to success. People think success looks like this. It doesn't. It looks like that. I've had businesses go bankrupt, lost people I loved, was divorced by the time I was 35. I've had some real setbacks. And if I look at my success, it's a function of the fact that I was always willing to mourn and then move on and get back up.
Okay, we're back with Gene Marks, CEO of the Marks Group, and Gene was just giving us some really valuable information about his expectation that there will be another PPP program passed prior to Election Day, which I don't think I've heard too many other places. So that's kind of new news. And Gene, so just to recap what you were just saying, basically, if I was a business that got under $2 million, definitely under 150 and probably under 2. That will be forgiven if I fill out the proper paperwork, which is not too bad, right?
Correct. That's right. And that, again, that would be part of the second round if there is a new round of paycheck protection program. But yes.
Right. And then you said also that if I've got lower than or 50% or lower of the revenues from last year, then I would get forgiven, right?
Right. So they put aside right now in the current bill that failed in the Senate, there was about around $200 billion put aside for more paycheck protection program money, which is great. But again, it's going to be very targeted. And it's really, this time around, it's going to be at industries that have really, now, by the way, I mean, all this is still up for negotiation. Yeah. It's pretty much agreed on bipartisan wise, but some industry groups would like to see that 50% number even lower, Gordon, like saying, hey, that's a little stiff. How about if we show that our revenues are down 30% compared to last year?
Understand.
So that might change. That might change. But right now it stands at 50.
Right. Okay. Gene, you were mentioning Thryv technology and other CRM technology and how that may be forgivable. I'm just wondering whether you can talk about small businesses and how they've used technology to sort of get through this period, this rough period they've been in. Have you seen businesses kind of ramp up their use of technology? Because obviously they can't see people face to face. You mentioned the issue of I can't accept checks anymore because how am I going to do that? So what have you seen that's sort of people changing the way they do business?
Well, a whole bunch of different technologies have suddenly become like almost household words. I mean, Zoom is a perfect example. Is Microsoft Teams, Google Meet. So all of the virtual conferencing stuff has really become just sort of like a name brand kind of thing. And a lot of businesses have adopted them, but it hasn't stopped it there, Gordon. I mean, CRM applications have been big. That's customer relationship management. We sell a few of them. Thryv offers CRM options as well. Many small businesses themselves are realizing that, particularly in a world where you've got your workforce is now spread out, you need to have one sort of cloud-based database where everybody is on the same page. And the CRM systems, they not only make sure that nothing falls through the cracks, but pretty much, and undiplomatically, they ensure that your people don't look like dopes in front of your customers. They, with a good CRM application, if you're talking to a customer, you can see who else spoke to them or what was emailed to them or what notes about them or what you sold to them and all of that. And again, if people are working from home, they can't just ask the person in the cubicle next to them. So that's provided a really, really, big benefit. Cloud-based accounting systems have also been very, very popular. And just office systems in general. So besides Office 365, Microsoft's Office and Google's G Suite, Slack has been a big winner as well, which is a great communications application for people, instant messaging and creating channels and groups of customers and projects that they can do. And speaking of project management, I've seen a lot of people have upticks in project management and HR applications. So project managers are like Asana and Basecamp and Trello, because again, you've got people all over the place. We need one place where we can share that information. And HR applications are the same thing. You've got all of these workers, they need to stay in touch with each other. They still need performance reviews. They still need the ability to put in for PTO or sick time. There's trainings, there's forms, there's insurance to manage. So there's a lot of great HR platforms that are out there that help people manage this stuff now in the cloud. Paychecks and Zenefits and Bamboo. So these are all seen significant increases. One of the biggest problems that businesses have been having that, just to make sure that we're all aware of this though, is security, Gordon. I mean, if you Google around, and I wrote about this a few weeks ago, there's been like an explosion in ransomware and malware attacks on businesses because there's people working from home using like Windows 95 or God knows what is still there, and they're connecting into their corporate networks on, whatever. So we've been telling our clients, sorry, but, one of the things with people working from home, you've got to hire like an IT firm, a local person or somebody to go, and they've got to survey all of your work from home workers, make sure they've got security software installed, make sure everybody's running recent operating systems, because that's how they get in. They get in through old versions of Windows and Mac iOS. They compromise them and then they take control of them and then they get access to your corporate system that way. It's a really bad thing. So, and the hackers know it. They know it. So I really recommend if you're running a business that, you do a double check on your security, because if they do, hack into you, you're done, man. I mean, businesses go out of business because of it. Your files are locked. You can't get anything done. It's just unbelievably disruptive. Yeah. So you got to do some preemptive work on that.
Yeah, some great advice. So we only have a few minutes left, but I wanted to ask you the question. We're in a big controversial election year, obviously, and I don't want you to predict the election unless you happen to know who's going to win. Yeah. But I would love to hear your take on small business in terms of each candidate's position. Are there things you like or don't like from a small business perspective from each of the candidates or each of the platforms?
So both candidates, as we're speaking to, I don't know when this is going to air, Gordon, but as we're speaking today, which is, we're in the third week of September, the Biden campaign just today announced a whole small business outreach thing. They have a small business advisory council. They have some, people involved. I'm actually interviewing Andrew Yang about this later today. Because he's like chairing this whole thing. So it's it's a lot of love for small business because it's a big voting block. But let's talk about the numbers. Really the bottom line is and again, the Biden candidacy, the Trump, the pros and cons to each. So we don't have to get into all of that. But from a business perspective,
Right.
Trump is more business friendly overall than Biden. So you have to keep that in mind. And let me give you some specific reasons why.
Yeah, give us some.
Yep. So Biden, for starters, he is a supporter of a national $15 an hour minimum wage. He is a supporter of extending the Family and Medical Leave Act from unpaid to make sure that it's paid. He is a supporter of increasing overtime wages, which means the amount of money that you're paying people that work overtime, businesses should be responsible for doing more of that. He is a supporter of scaling back the use of subcontractors. There was a big deal in California. Uber and Lyft were involved, where people, California has a new law that says that you can't use subcontractors in your business to make you money. They can only be used for services. So like an Uber driver would have to be classified as an employee. Biden supports that as well. And he also supports like taking away non-compete clauses from agreements. So if you hire somebody and they leave, they can go and work for a competitor. On the tax side, he across the board, he does support higher rates. He wants to increase the rates individual for wealthy earnings over 400,000. He wants to increase capital gains rates. He wants to increase the rates that would be subject to FICA taxes, and he wants to increase the corporate rate from 21 to 28%. So those are some, and on health insurance, he wants to go back to fully bring back Obamacare. So those are all, and I'm not saying these are bad things. But they do tend to be a little bit more, they will be more expensive for small businesses.
Small business,
He is more labor related, and Trump is just not. He's a deregulatory guy and not a tax guy. So those are the things. Now, does that mean that those issues alone make you vote for a Trump over a Biden? Maybe not. It depends on what.
I understand personal preference, but you're laying out what are the things that directly relate to small business, and is there anything that the Trump administration has proposed going forward that might be different than what we're already seeing for small business? Any additional changes that you can mention?
Nothing significant, to be honest. He is just his whole economic plan is just keeping tax rates low and reinforcing deregulation as much as possible. One thing that he does support, and so does Biden, is significant investments in infrastructure. So Trump has proposed a $1.7 trillion plan. Biden has done a $1.5 trillion plan. Biden leans a little bit more towards green infrastructure, more environmentally friendly stuff. Trump, more towards the transportation sector, highways, the energy grid, that kind of thing. But really, both one and the same. So if you're a small business in the construction business or you're servicing, if you're looking to follow the money, there's going to be $1.7 trillion going towards construction businesses for infrastructure, and that's a lot of opportunity for you to sell into. You don't have to be in the construction business to take advantage. If you clean offices, then buy a list of construction firms because they'll be able to pay more for people to clean their office because there's going to be more work happening in those sectors. So I think that's going to be a market that really does grow. And you can also expect both with Trump and Biden, there's going to be more turmoil in healthcare. And unfortunately, Trump's plans, he has an association health plans, healthcare reimbursement plans. His whole thing is to give more options to businesses. Biden feels that it's better for the country to have more, towards the Affordable Care Act. So again, that's going to be another sort of political battle. And we haven't even talked about immigration, but that's a whole other issue.
Is that an issue that resonates a lot with small businesses?
Depends on where the small business is. It really does. If you're down in the Sun Belt states, you rely a lot on migrant workers to do a lot of the work. You really do. So, and then of course, even if you're in the technology industry, immigrants, come from India and China.
H-1 visas.
Yeah, huge impact on people. But then again, you talk to people in the Midwest and people across the middle of the country, and they, they feel like their jobs are taken away from immigrants. So that's another. Listen, Gordon, that is a debate that has been going on since this country was founded.
Sure.
And I don't think it's going to end anytime soon.
Yeah. I was just curious to follow up on your comment about the $15 or the minimum wage, which I guess was, proposed to be $15 an hour, and you're saying Biden backs that. And of course, we remember during the campaign that Bernie Sanders was big on the $15 an hour. Is that something that's in the cities where they've enacted it? I think they enacted it in Seattle. Hasn't it already sort of been proven that it really was tough, particularly for the restaurants, that some of the businesses just couldn't make it?
Again, depends on who you talk to. We live in a world now where you can take a position and find some research study that will back up your position, Sure. So, because I wrote about this a couple of months ago about minimum wage, how I took two different research studies, one done at Berkeley and one done at the University of Washington, which said that minimum wage had no impact on the ability of small businesses to hire. And they took sample sizes in Seattle and San Francisco. Then there was other research studies by the University of Chicago that said the exact opposite, that it did. They took Midwestern businesses and it had an impact on them to hire. It is first of all, just putting aside all the academics, just from somebody who runs a business, I mean, clearly increasing your minimum wages, it has this roll-on effect, Gordon. It's not just the entry-level people, but it impacts all wages. I mean, if you have a person in your shop that's making $18 an hour and they've been working for you for 5 years, and then the minimum wage goes up to 15, so your entry that you're hiring a college kid now or a high school kid at 15. What's that person going to say? He's going to be like, I'm only making $3 more than this high school kid. Right?
Good point.
So it has this big. Now, the final thing I say on minimum wage is Trump also supports a national minimum wage. He's more around the $11 to $12 an hour range, but he wants to index it for inflation after that. And that would be it. So don't think that he's an anti-minimum wager. But the one thing is about Trump is that he's very much a states' rights kind of guy. Right. So I wouldn't expect under a second term of Trump that he would actually enact a national minimum.
Federal. Yeah.
I think he would continue to just leave that issue to the states.
Right. Okay. Well, we're just about out of time. This has been terrific. We're excited that you're going to be coming to Thryv Connect, speaking at our conference in November, so that we can all look forward to that. And by then, November 10th and 11th, who knows? We may actually have a new president. Maybe not.
I doubt it. I don't think we will. I would say to anybody listening to this podcast to brace yourself. Yeah. I think you're looking not to see finding out who our winner is for at least 6 to 8 weeks after the election. That's what I think.
6. Oh my God. Well,
I think it's going to take that long. I really do. But I hope I'm wrong on that.
Yeah.
I really
hope you are too. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Gene, thanks for speaking with us today. This has been terrific, and I'm pleased to hear that despite 6 months of COVID, you're feeling sort of relatively optimistic about the small business scene. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, I will never not be optimistic about entrepreneurship and small businesses in this country. I will never not be optimistic.
Resilient group, for sure. Right. Yeah. So thank you. We've been speaking with Gene Marks, CEO of the Marks Group based in Philadelphia. And for those of you who have not yet registered for Thryv Connect, again, I suggest to you register online at thryv.com/connect. That's thryv.com/connect. And you'll be able to hear great speakers like Gene Marks speaking at the conference in just a couple of months. This has been Gordon Henry. We're Winning on Main Street. We speak every week about what's going on with small businesses. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.